Hello everyone and welcome back. Today I'm going to be diving into the world of slow stitching and discussing the top 10 mistakes that beginners often make. And I've made them all, so I know. If you're just starting out, or even if you've been stitching for a while, I think this video will help you avoid some common pitfalls and maybe elevate your slow stitching up just a little bit. So let's get started. While I'm talking about these 10 mistakes that beginners often make in slow stitching, I'm going to be stitching on this project here. I wanted to get a fall palette, and so that's what I did. The piece is, let's see, about 6.5 by 8.5, and there are 10 different scraps that are pinned down right now that I'm going to be stitching on. And then I will be doing something else to enhance this, take it from just a slow stitch piece up to more of an art piece. And I will be showing you that finished part at the throughout the video as I improve on it and then finish it. So stick with me while we work on this piece here. Right now, what I'm going to be doing is simply stitching this down for right now. And so I'm going to be doing that while we're discussing these next points. Okay, so let's dive into these 10 mistakes that beginners often make. The very first one that we want to talk about is not choosing the right fabric. Often beginners start with fabrics that might be too thick or too heavy, too closely weaved that makes them dense, or the opposite where they're too loose and they don't hold their pattern well if they're doing embroidery designs, or maybe too slippery and they can't hold on to it, it puckers and catches easy. Cottons seem to be the best choice for slow stitching. Linens are good too, watching your weight, not getting too heavy of a linen. There are other materials that work well, but if you start with just cottons, and there are cheaper grade cottons and better grade cottons, and they will often differ in the density of thread count, so that one is thicker and denser and one is looser. But even the best quilting cottons work well for this, and they are a little denser weave than some of the cheaper cottons. But anyway, if you can get your cotton scraps, that would be the best thing to do. And that would be help you to avoid making that first mistake. Now, also, your backing fabric, whatever you choose to slow stitch onto. I'm using batting. I often use batting because I like the look that it gives my piece, and it's a little more substantial. Just plain muslin, old sheeting, things like that can be used. Of course, larger pieces of just plain cotton. Just a lot of things can be used, but make sure that they are a fabric that your needle slides through easily and doesn't add a whole bunch of density to the back of what you're going to be slow stitching. Okay, so just think about those elements when you're starting out. Okay, let's get a little further into this. Well, as you can see, I have worked a lot on this. I have used lace, and I created some petals out of lace and muslin. And I used a lace up here in the background for the flower and added this motif that was bought, and then did the stitching around it. I've added stitching and some decorative yarns here, stitching through here. Now when I look at it, I think it's almost finished except for one thing. It appears a little top heavy weighted at the top. I need something to balance it a little bit. And what I think I'm going to do is to add this at the bottom, and I believe that that will give it the weight, the balance that I think that it needs. And so I'll be couching this at the bottom, okay? Let me bring you up and let you get a closer look of it the way it is. And you can see what I've done here. Okay, let's go back down. Okay, and as I said, I'm going to be couching this along the bottom edge of that lace. All right. Now let's get into mistake number 2 that most beginners, I won't say all beginners because that just, that might not be a true statement, but most beginners make, and that is using the wrong threads. Now, for me, as there is no right or wrong thread, it's whatever thread works for the look and the feel that I want on the piece. But a lot of times, beginners don't realize certain fabrics just won't take certain threads, and especially when it gets to be nubby threads with texture, they won't work through the fabric well that you've chosen. So make sure that your fabric and thread are compatible that way. Not too heavy, not too thick. If you need a thicker look, try couching like I'm doing here. Threads or yarns, and try not to work with too heavy of thread. But other than that, I won't, there's just no rule when it comes to thread to me, because I use what I want at the time that'll work. And so you'll have to practice with that. But usually, a lot of times beginners start out with, a lot of times they'll start out using the full 6 strands in a embroidery floss, not realizing that they can separate those down to 2 or 3 strands and maybe get a better look and an easier experience sewing at the same time. Okay, mistake number 3 is skipping the planning stage. A lot of new slow stitchers don't like what they end up with when they finish their project, and it most of the time is because of lack of planning. If you're not an intuitive artist to begin with, then you need to plan until you get a little more confidence, a little more experience. That means to take your fabrics, your background fabrics, your elements that you're going to sew onto that, and cut and lay them out, audition them, change things that don't work, and so forth. Do the planning. A good thing to do once you get it laid out, you're happy with it, that's what you want, then take a photo of it. That way you can take everything off and start sewing just your one, element at a time until you layer your things up, but you'll know how you wanted it placed. Mistake number 4 is that most beginners start out with too complicated of a idea or a pattern. You want to practice your stitching, and you want to practice your fabric collaging and your designing, but do it in simple stages. Do it with simple, smaller projects. Don't start out with the most complicated things that more experienced slow stitchers are doing, because you'll just disappoint yourself and you won't finish the project. Okay. Number 5 is make sure that you practice some basic stitches. Your running stitch, your couching, your cross stitch, your blanket stitch, your lazy daisy stitch, your French knot stitch. Some of these stitches are just very basic embroidery stitches, and you will use the basics more often than anything else. And if you watch my channel, you know that I work primarily in a running stitch, and I use it in many different ways, short, long, so forth and so on. But it just, I like to use the other stitches too. I like to use the stipple stitches and the French knots and all those things. But learn 5 or 6 basic stitches and practice them on your first pieces. And as you get better, add a stitch. Maybe try to learn 5, and then after that, maybe try to learn a new stitch every week, so that you'll eventually have a library of stitches that you know how to make to fit every occasion you want it to fit. Okay, mistake number 6 is ignoring color theory, in the sense that you need to know something about color if you want your pieces to come out looking good. And because color is so important to any kind of artwork or stitching or anything like that, understanding how colors work together can dramatically improve your projects. So get a color wheel or something and look and kind of study your complementary colors and so forth, so that you know what combinations you want to put together. And then look at some other artists here on YouTube and notice their artwork. Notice how they use color, what combinations they use together, and you can learn a lot from that. Okay, mistake number 7 that most new beginners make is that they rush their projects. They're in too big of a hurry to get done. They won't spend the time to put the detail in to make something, a finished piece, look really good, step it up a level. And so rushing, you just want to take your time. You want to enjoy the process. Doing the slow stitching is as important as what you finish up with. And so it's the doing that you want to make sure that you enjoy. And you get a bonus because you end up with a project that's finished. Okay, mistake number 8 that most make is that they won't experiment. They won't do something out of the box. They're afraid. They get an original idea, but they're afraid because they have no confidence. So, don't be afraid to try new techniques and materials. Slow stitching is a personal journey, and experimenting can lead you to unique and beautiful results that you might not have gotten otherwise. Mistake number 9, neglecting to finish the project. Don't get in that mode. And beginners do, because like I said, they make so many mistakes in the beginning that they just want to give up. But neglecting it's easy to get distracted by a new idea while you're working on the present one, but try to complete your projects. Now that doesn't mean you can't work on more than one project at a time, but make sure you go back and finish your projects. Projects unfinished are just really a waste of your time in that sense. And mistake number 10, not enjoying the process. Remember, slow stitching is about the relaxation and creativity. So embrace the journey, enjoy it. Pick your times to stitch, pick your place to sit down and stitch, pick your projects carefully. Put all the elements together that will ensure that you enjoy the process, that you enjoy creating. That will keep you busy. That will keep you stitching for many years to come. And that will keep you creating beautiful pieces throughout the years. We have come to the finish on this little piece here. Those are the 10 things that I think beginners mostly make, those mistakes, and it really can affect the outcome of whether you remain a stitcher or not. So try to give some thought to some of those things and see if you do that and if you can improve your situation in that. Let me just run this through the back here. And let's look at it. Yes, that did just exactly what I wanted it to do. It weighted down that bottom. Now it doesn't look like it's going to tilt in my mind. I love the piece. I think it's beautiful. Of course, if you know me, I think all that stuff is beautiful. But I love the color play. I like the collage that I started with. I like the soft vintagey looking laces here, the simple flower. It just all just blends in there and looks very good to me. So I really love it. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found these tips helpful. Give the video a like and subscribe if you find the content that I'm sharing valuable to you in any way. Thank you so much, and please stay scrap happy and stitch happy.